increasingly we have feedback that the guest's personal journey, sort of getting to know the guest, that was incredibly well received. And eventually, with the replays feature that Clubhouse launched, I believe in the fall of 2021, we were able to create a means of capturing our content, having that professionally edited, and that became the podcast where we interview luminaries in the fields of real world data, real world evidence, and the adjacencies. Sometimes we'll have conversations more focused on clinical operations and RCTs. But in general, it's a focus on real world data and real world evidence, the personal journey, some questions, and then we actually have live audience participation, around 12 to 15 people per week. It's much more fun than I ever realized a podcast could be, because you get to just connect with people. It's something that everyone's passionate about. You get to hear personal journeys, and I was kind of reflecting on people that I've worked with over the years. I'm sure, Don, you've seen this as well. You just sort of start working with someone, and especially in larger companies, and you may get along well. You're kind of doing your thing, but there's no real insight to sort of their background and their career journey. So pulling back the curtain on that, it's been a lot of fun, and people like to share when they're sort of encouraged to, hey, tell us your journey, and everyone's a little defensive. It's like, well, I didn't start out in this at all. I said, of course, that's the beauty of it. It's that circuitous journey that we love to get into and just kind of hear those professional stories. That again leads into some questions, and it's a lot of fun. We do cap it at 1 hour though, because we know that is an appropriate amount of time that a busy professional can sort of listen in and catch an episode and enjoy it. And we went with Wednesday because statistically we saw that that was the highest probability day for a live audience participation. So real world Wednesday, RWW, and it's kind of a little tongue-in-cheek joke, because the last thing we really needed was another 3-letter acronym that starts with R, but there it is.
And then when do they get released, I guess, or do you still do it on Clubhouse?
We do. Yeah, we've actually explored some other technologies. The ability to have the live audience, that's a big part of it. We are able to release within a couple of days post live episode. And we are on Spotify. We're the RWD and RWE podcast on Spotify. Also, we have a website, rwd-rwe.club, and all of our content shows up there.
Perfect. All right. Very good. Couple questions about you. So what is the greatest piece of leadership advice you've ever received?
Yeah, I really enjoy that question, because I've thought about some of the key influences and the people that I've worked for and with over the years. And I would say one of the most influential, and this is someone that I worked with early stages of Quintiles, who would often say a good leader doesn't lead, they lift. And I thought, early stages, what do you mean by that? Doesn't it if you're lifting people up, doesn't that mean that you're helping? No. It's lifting them to do the best job that they can do, to be motivated, to lift them up mentally, psychologically. A good leader is very adept at doing that. So that's something that I try to embrace. A good leadership is around lifting the people around you, getting the best from everyone, and giving your absolute best to them. And I would say that's probably been the hallmark of leadership, developing my own style of leadership now, but just over the years trying to deploy variations of that in every position that I held.
Very good. Matt, what inspires you?
I would say working with exceptionally talented teams. And I realize that maybe that's kind of underwhelming answer, but when you get to experience the the proverbial 1 + 1 = 3. Well, that's great, but that 1 + 1 that equals 27, I haven't had that experience too many times in my life, and I've actually experienced that. And for me, it was just eye-opening to see the amazing transformation and just progress that can be made around really, really challenging issues and topics. Great insights, being able to bring that to bear very quickly. That for me is inspiring.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because I've experienced it myself, and I remember saying to somebody, um, because they had asked, "Are you afraid that at some point that we're going to fail?" And I said, it said, if you open your eyes wide enough right now, you can see how much momentum is behind us. It's not even us pushing anymore. It's that, there's so much momentum because of everything that we've built and all the great stuff that we've done, that I don't think anybody can slow this locomotive down right now. I think, realistically it would take some pretty substantial things to make it even slow for a beat, let alone, be derailed at all. So, that was kind of my answer for the same thing. It's like, that you feel that multiplication factor and you could feel it coming together, and it's just an amazing experience as a leader, that I've also seen as well, and it's a great experience. So yeah,
I love that. Absolutely. Yeah. It is like a freight train of momentum. And it's kind of a hang on for dear life because great things are going to happen.
right, right, exactly. So to that same point, Matt, what concerns you?
Yeah, I would say, and certainly not delving into politics whatsoever, I would say disruptions in research are a real concern and consideration. Uh, Many reasons for things that are happening today, but disrupted funding, operational capabilities. That's a real concern to me because in many clinical research projects, especially, but even before that, in terms of earlier stages of R&D, when you disrupt the program, it isn't a couple of months, let's restart. It can be years before that research can recover. And so, that I would say is one of my biggest concerns and
Yeah, I mean,
fears.
just for anybody that's not experienced in this, I'll just share maybe one element of this that I'm closely monitoring for a couple of different companies. Um, there are biobanks of tissue samples that we have that are in some way they have to be maintained throughout time. And let's just say that the research is paused, that's fine. But somebody has to pay for the electricity and for the keeping the samples frozen and for, just essentially holding things while essentially we figure out what's going to happen with funding for these companies. Luckily, we've had some folks, step up and just say, "Hey, look, I mean, given some of the challenges, we understand that. We're willing to sort of carry these samples, for you, in a couple of different instances, but without that good fortune." To your very good point, I mean, this research essentially would have just been somewhat wasted, and you'd have to start back over with brand new fresh samples the moment that you got funded again. And so I feel like there's a part of this that people just don't understand overall, that fundamentally, the United States has carried a lot of this stuff, for a good long time. Sure, you could make an argument for or against. Politically, I frankly don't care about that side of it. But from the scientific perspective, it's going to create a void that, unfortunately, hopefully we don't feel, the time that the next pandemic hits or the time some other big disease hits that we'd like to save somebody from, going through all that pain. So I definitely have seen sort of the periphery of this, and I'm seeing that some pretty scary things that could happen if they continue to sort of cut deeply in terms of research budgets. And it's not even just at the government level. The corporations also now have to really focus their dollars and make sure that they're, supporting things in the right way.
Yeah.